There's nothing like the magic of live music.
Music is one of those things that unifies everybody.
We are so very happy to be here with you tonight.
We were going to be heading over to the UK, and then we were going to go into Europe and do a bunch of festivals.
I just kept seeing 2020 as the year that was going to destroy 2019 and kill all the records.
We have a show on average every other night, all year long. We've consistently been one of the top 5 most attended theaters in the country.
I just remember everything within like that 24 hours just canceled. And that was like the beginning of the end.
Most of us have poured our lives, our money, our time, our energy, our passions into entertaining.
Every day that passes, we're losing the chance to be able to save this industry.
I don't really know what a normal year is because my whole life has just kind of been this like progression of getting, busier and busier. But what I was hoping would be my normal, I guess, started last year when I was on the road almost constantly. I was touring with another band called Big Wild, playing bass. I went back to Europe back in, I guess it would have been January, February. It was about 6 weeks. I toured Denmark, Germany, Switzerland, the Netherlands, Austria, Italy, all over. And I got engaged in Copenhagen. That's when we started hearing about the virus getting more serious and traveling to different countries. And I just remember being with my tour manager, and we were in Germany and we were reading the news and we're like, oh my God, it's in Germany now. Like, it was just like following us, it felt like. And then it was in Italy and we had just been in Italy. And that was just kind of like the beginning of that, like, oh my God, I think this is gonna be bad. It was kind of insane, just like watching every single show just like vanish. And it was almost like, I remember in Portland, there was that weekend where everybody was kind of like hanging on by a thread. We were all like, okay, so I think the show's still gonna happen on Sunday, Saturday, but maybe we'll just wait and see. And then I just remember everything within like that 24 hours just canceled. I think in the beginning, I was still kind of holding on to this hope that, it wasn't going to be as bad. But once the reality hit, I was really depressed. That was like, I think it was just like this dark cloud just over both me and my fiance, and just kind of this like stark reality of how we were going to have to adjust to life with so many unknowns and absolutely no work remaining for me. I realized how much touring, it's such an adventure. You don't know what your days are going to look like necessarily. I miss the person that I am when I get to tour. Kind of like forces you to jump out of your shell.
All right, everybody, I want you to hold up your glass, cheers your neighbor, and say, I love you!
You meet so many amazing people. I think for me, it gave me a lot of purpose. So being stuck at home every day, knowing that there's no plan for me to head out on the road and do what I love and be in that energy.
Monday, you guys. I feel so tired today. So very sleepy. I slept great, and I just feel like I could go right back to sleep. But it was a great Thanksgiving. Oh my God. It was such a great Easter. Oh God, you guys.
I have really struggled through this time with my depression and anxiety, and that mental challenge can be really debilitating. And there's some days or weeks where I don't have it in me to try to plan. It's just you know, I've had conversations with my friends just being like, is this even worth it anymore? Like, what is the point? There's so much going on in the world that feels so much more important than my little career. Like, why does this even matter? So it's like, it's paired with just the, you know, the everything going on in the world and feeling like what you're doing doesn't matter, but also just like this impending doom of, will it ever be back to the way it was? I started grinding and trying to get my unemployment money, which was such a mess. And me, along with so many others, you know, had to wait months to receive anything. So I was more or less relying on my savings from that year prior. One of the first things I did was reach out to my, just kind of my base of students that I was teaching prior to being on the road. And I was just like, hey, I'm back. You want to do some Zoom lessons? And I knew that that was something that I could easily jump into, knowing that I could at least rely on that while I figured everything out. One of the things that came to surface was live streams.
We did it. We're here. We're live. I'm 20 minutes late, and I'm so sorry. I had some major technical difficulties.
And when you're doing a live stream by yourself in your basement or living room, it's hard not to be in that kind of like stressed out rehearsal mindset. I miss talking to people after shows and just having that back and forth of fan to artist. That's the toughest thing I think that we've lost. The beautiful part of all this, you know, my fiance and I started a garden in our tiny little backyard, which I was never much of a green thumb. I know that that's the thing that a lot of people did, and I think that's beautiful. I think we created like a little oasis in our backyard so that we had somewhere to go that was pretty and nice. And we got a puppy, a little golden retriever, COVID puppy.
Oh, what'd you do? What?
And so learning how to take care of another living thing in the midst of all this, and then also just like simply sitting in my living room with a candle lit and like my little lights on and just singing through some song ideas or just working on lyrics and just like having my space to just be like, all I have to do today is enjoy myself and my creativity. That's like all I have to do, nothing else. And I think it was hard to let myself do that before. I'm giving myself a lot of grace to move through my emotions and my feelings and my levels of inspiration, and I not judge myself if I'm having an off day. The main thing is to just appreciate where I'm at, even if it's like not where I'm aspiring to be yet. Appreciating the little things, appreciating the nights I have with my fiance, not taking those for granted, appreciating just being able to cook dinner, you know, be at home and just be with my family. And I think that I'm gonna continue to allow myself more grace in taking time on things and maybe not feeling so rushed, because I realize that like the world can wait.
I mean, 2019 was a darn good year. And I just kept seeing 2020 as the year that was gonna make everything that we've ever done up to this year, up to 2019, which was a fabulous year. It was just gonna simply destroy it and kill all the records. And going into the year, I had 26 shows on my calendar, pre-booked for 2021. I had a new album coming out, something I haven't done before. It was just a dream of mine. And if you recall, I was saying to you that 2020 was a year we're finally all gonna see 2020 vision and see it clearly. And hindsight is 2020, no pun intended. But I will say that I guess we got our wish. It just didn't exactly turn out the way I expected it, but you know what? We all see a lot clearer now than we did before. You know, I kind of figured that this was somewhat serious because everyone I knew had kids that stopped going to school. So at that point, when the kids stopped going to school, little by little, all across the country, I said to myself, wow, this is like legit serious. I remember thinking to myself, it's going to get serious, but how serious? It can't be that bad. Maybe in the next 90 days at most. Here we are, almost exactly a year later. And I just can't believe that we're still talking about this.
You guys ready? All right. Where are my beautiful Italians in this house?
It hurt a lot because I was so used to it. I mean, you got to remember something, that I'm good for 25 to 40 shows a year. And to go into the year with 26 beforehand means I would have had 50 to 55 shows. So to start off with that, it would have been literally like it was when I was 19 years old, if not better. And people understand it more now. I mean, you're talking about almost a moment of depression, but not just for the people who got on stage, but for the people who used us as an outlet to just be somewhere else, find themselves in a place where they don't have to necessarily think of everything that's going on around them, because we all grew up together at the same time in different places, and we all went through the same things together. So the one thing that we had in common with each other that brought us together to escape everything that was going on in real life has been now taken away. And taken away to a point where you're wondering, is it ever going to come back? Is it ever going to be the same? When is it going to come back? How different is it going to be? And, you know, for me, I try to dig deep, and I'm always the kind of guy who always thinks positive. I try to uplift everybody around me. My life is all about trying to inspire people and make them feel better. But when you have the world on your shoulders and things are not going great, after a while, even the people who try their best to inspire, when they fall down harder than those who they've been inspiring. I actually got COVID. I got COVID in October. I had a little headache from the first day, little shoulder pain in the back, and I quarantined in the hotel for 10 days by myself. And then my son ended up getting it, my youngest son. And we spent the 2 weeks together in the hotel. And every day I prayed, and every day I took all my vitamins and my supplements just to ensure that anything I could possibly do to make this go away and not affect me, I did. I was so afraid of losing my voice. I was so afraid of this going into my lungs. I've had asthma since a kid, and I was very worried that I'd be that guy that, you know, doesn't end up well. I was free of symptoms after 48 hours. And I was just blessed. But I got to tell you, every day after those 48 hours, I wondered, is this next day going to be the day? Because I heard the week after that you get it, the second week is where that's when things start getting bad. And each day I would just count down and going, okay, am I over the hump yet? Am I over the hump yet? And I remember getting past the 9th day and saying, holy cow, I only got a couple more days and I'm good. I was so scared, but I was so thankful. I don't think I've ever been more thankful. Like you're thankful for a lot of things, but you know, like I spend so much time being thankful for others. I thank God and the universe for the blessings that I have for myself and for my family and for my successes and for all that stuff. But most of my time is spent pushing the blessings out for somebody else and praying for someone else. And for me to say, please don't let anything happen to me. This just means everything to me. And then this was like, what if I lose my voice? That would be the end. I would have nothing left. And that was very depressing moment, but I stopped it really fast because I just believe that no matter what's going on, the best cure to anything is you have to believe wholeheartedly that everything's going to be okay. Your attitude is such a big part of any type of healing that exists. The only thing that I think matters right now is that if you're able to watch this right now That's something you should be thankful for. Because there are so many people that we lost. So many people. And I know we lose hundreds of thousands of people every year with, regular flus and all kinds of other reasons why people die. And nobody really knows the true definition of how and why this happened. I have no clue. It's way above my pay grade. But I will tell you that I know it's real. I can prove it's real because of what's going on around us. I can prove it's real because of the people that we've lost, the people that we looked to see on a Friday or a Saturday or a Wednesday or just a phone call every once in a while. And all of you guys, every single person that's watching this has lost somebody or knows somebody who lost somebody. This is the first time in history that the world has had to deal with something negative at one time, at the same time, all together.
A typical year at the Florida Theater, we do about 175 nights a year. So we have a show on average every other night all year long. For several years, we've consistently been one of the top 5 most attended theaters in the country under 2,000 seats. We were able to book some really tremendous shows, and we were raising money towards a capital improvement of the theater. Just everything was firing on all cylinders. And if you'd said to me, listen, within the next 90 days, a global pandemic is going to sweep the world, and one result is that you're going to be completely closed, I would have said that's science fiction. And yet 90 days later, there we were. And on March 12, when we had our last show, we were afraid that we were going to be closed for 2 or 3 weeks. And then it turned out to be 9 months. We recently did the calculation, and year over year, 2019 versus 2020, we lost 96% of our income. Just think about that for a second. The worst part of it is that all of those people who work shows, the stagehands, the bartenders, the security workers, the box office reps, the cleaners, all of those people have had no work all year long. And that's, horrifying. That's over 200 people. There's a huge trickle-down effect from our activity. So in our neighborhood, there's a bunch of parking garages. So every night we're open, the parking lot attendants have another night of work. Every night we're open, there's more business in the restaurants in our area. So more waiters and more cooks and more busboys and more bartenders are working that night. All of those people were out of work. And all of the bands and artists who didn't come here, they all employ their own road crew, their own band members. The guy who carries the guitar on and off stage every night, that's a job. And that guy didn't have work either. They employ bus drivers and truck drivers. They're in hotel rooms. None of that happened. And all of those people were out of work. I'm scared out of my mind every day. I'd be lying to you if I said anything but that. My wife says to me over and over again, well, they will never let the Florida Theater die. And I keep saying to her, who's they? You focus on tomorrow, because there's no other choice. You got to get up and do the work and get to tomorrow. I am still working. My family's safe. They're all healthy. We are one venue out of thousands across the country. And, every historic theater, every performing arts center, every little 100-seat club is going through the same thing. This has been devastating to the live performance industry. We were all asked to close, and many are still closed. And we were asked to do it for the good of the country. And I think everybody was happy to do it, but it's been super tough.
Thanks for coming tonight. We want to ask you all to do a couple things because we want to make this safe for everybody.
It's not financially viable to keep doing this way in the long run, but, it's something. So we're happy that we have something. The performers, pandemic and health issues aside, are thrilled to be in front of an audience again. Drive-in concerts, Zoom concerts, podcasts, there's nothing replaces the immediacy of being in front of a live audience who give you that instant feedback. And, artistically, the performers have been really thrilled to be in front of a live audience again. One of my hopes out of the pandemic is that we will realize how important it is to have live performances and to have that experience. And that's essential to our sense of community, and being in a communal setting with other people enjoying a live performance is critical to your mental being and your mental health, and to developing a sense of community. And being deprived of it for all these months is going to make us appreciate it in the future. That's my hope.
So a normal year for me, I have to say, it's a really social year. I'm a social butterfly for many reasons. Like, I'm on a personal level, I just like to meet with my friends. I have a very, very good core of friends that we love to meet. We love to see each other. We bring the kids together, either without kids, with the kids, and just kind of traveling and performing, and everything I do is a social gathering.
All right, you guys, you've got hands, you've got feet. We know how the Bronx gets down. Let's see you do it.
When I'm performing, I'm usually performing in concert venues or nightclubs, and I usually have 2 girls performing with me. When I even home, I have a really large family, a family of 5, and then plus 2 dogs. So, on a typical day and a typical year, my life is filled with people. I'm very rarely alone or isolated. So, COVID kind of changed the world, right? Because of everything I did just on my daily, it really impacted me. And it wasn't a negative. I can't even say in a negative way, because sometimes I think I needed the solitude and I needed to slow down. So I looked at it as a positive, but for a long time, I felt very disconnected from my friends, very disconnected from the world. I still can't believe we're in this place, and even though we're slowly coming back, when I look at, pictures of shows, when I look at pictures of gatherings, and social media has a fun way of reminding you where you were 1 year ago today, and yes. It's just like, do you remember it almost looks odd to me, like that's never going to be the same. We'll never be at that place again. And how did we think that was safe? We think that was, I look at it now and I think, well, was it safe? Were we always kind of tempting fate? But it really changed the way I lived. It changed even just how I looked at family. I have a toddler.
What's the party for, huh? The party.
My twins are going to be 18 years old. They're going to be going on to college. The blessing of this was I was looking at this senior year as it coming fast, coming quickly, and then losing them. But I will say that the minute we were quarantined, I was with them every day, every minute. And it was time that I just said, you know what? I'm not going to get this back. I'm never going to have this again. So it's almost a gift to have them near me. It really made me appreciate my home, and that's another thing, like home became your sanctuary, and either you were really grateful for it and grateful for the space, or you were like, oh my God, I'm outgrowing this really quickly. So it made me love my home. It made me utilize every little bit of my home, and it made me just have more time. I was close with my children already. I'm that helicopter parent, but I could feel them breaking away from me. And it was nice to have them nearby. It was nice to have them in here, in my home. And we were forced. So there was no fight. There was no battle.
Hey all, just checking in, well-being check really at the end of the day. Just want to see how you all were doing and give you share a little bit of my morning.
And you had no choice. You had to connect with anybody, and you had to work through Zooms, work through internet, work through any kind of social media, any FaceTime. You had to push through that wall to connect, you know? Even you and I are talking, you know, it's the difference of kind of sitting there and just chatting, or really, you know, talking and really getting into each other's space with that screen. Like, you just had to kind of try to create that connection without all the bells and whistles. That's what it became again.
We had a lot of big plans in 2020 with a new album release on a brand new record label and a lot of big festival shows booked. I did 25 shows, which I'm very thankful for those opportunities. I actually did a world tour in 2020, and I'm not sure how many guys can say that. We were able to do the Monsters of Rock cruise and Cozumel, Belize, and then went to Australia for my first ever Australian tour. And literally within a week of us getting home from Australia, that's when the travel ban was instigated. I was under the impression that it wouldn't last very long and they would, burn itself out, or it was a false alarm, or obviously the disease is very deadly and it's very real. And we decided to push forward with whatever shows were on the books. The Sturgis Rally in Sturgis, South Dakota, obviously that's our residency.
Sturgis 2020, baby!
We did 5 headline shows at the Sturgis Rally.
I know the colors of the American flag. We stand up for those. We believe in what we say and we believe in what we sing. So we put together this medley of songs.
And I was pretty sure that one was going to happen, but they waited until the last minute to give us the green light, and we were concerned that event was not going to happen as well. I met with the guys in my band, and we decided as a group unanimously that if the opportunity was there to play, then we were going to do that. If any one guy in my band had vetoed that, I would have respected that concern and stayed home. One very difficult aspect of this now, because I have been out there and on tour and participating in live concerts and gatherings, I have a friend who is blaming me for the death of his father. His father passed away from COVID and it's my fault. I don't agree with his take on it, but it hurts. I've seen some very healthy people that were really stricken with this and with long-term effects. One of the toughest things about my stance, the fact that I'm not afraid to go out there and play shows, it's very tough to promote gigs, because you're inviting people to come to an event and they might be putting themselves at risk or putting their loved ones at risk. So how do I promote my shows and ask people to come see me? Hey, come check us out, come watch the show, come have a good time. It's very difficult to do that at the end of our summer run, right after the Sturgis Rally, when the band was on fire. We did a big production live stream concert online. We had 6 cameras, high def, huge production, and we had 12,000 views on that stream. It was an expensive production, but it was worth it. To be able to entertain people all over the world, regardless of the virus. The live streaming platform is fantastic, and I love doing it. I think people are watching it on their big screen TVs with their big sound systems, and they can enjoy the show from the comforts of their own home or wherever they're at. One thing 2020 really taught me that really hit home was that I'm not essential. And I always thought that there would be a need for entertainment, that I would always be able to make a living with my music and be able to perform or entertain people. I could go to a bar somewhere on a bar stool with an acoustic guitar and make a couple $100. I realized that's not the truth. So that really hit home to the fact that, man, maybe I'm a dinosaur. Maybe people don't really need or want what I do. A few years ago, my wife Renee was diagnosed with cancer. And as everybody knows, because most of our lives have been touched by cancer, that's a game changer. All of a sudden, you realize that day when you get the diagnosis, everything is different now. I'm not going to be able to tour. We're going to have to put an emphasis on sanitation and wipe down the remote controls and the light switches and sanitize the house because someone with cancer has an increased immune deficiency. So we were ready for this because of her bout with cancer. I had built a platform online on the Patreon page where I started engaging my fans with live video, vintage video clips, audio, interaction, and created a live online community of my fans. It's like a tribe, or it's a family. The disease is real and it's deadly. I don't take that for granted. You gotta keep moving on. I miss all those things. I miss my hair. I miss the 80s. I miss a lot of stuff. But life goes on, and what choice do I have other than to stay positive, keep working hard, and hoping for the best?
We started the year in January doing orchestral shows in Nashville, and then we carried on doing some touring, little bits here and there in February. And then in mid-March is when we had to shut down. The first reaction I really remember was, as we were out, and at the beginning of March, I started to feel like, wow, our days out here are numbered. Something is, something seriously going on. And when, like I say, by that second week in March, you could just feel like, okay, something's going to happen any day. And then we were literally going to do a show the night of March 12th. In Minnesota at a casino, and because it was a casino, everybody felt like, okay, we're kind of cool. And then all of a sudden, the governor ordered a statewide closing of anything over 50 people, I think, or 100. So we had to cancel right then. So that was the first real dose of, okay, this is real. Now things are canceled. We had already had several other shows cancel already. So that was when it was like, okay, we're pulling up stakes and going home. Then there's the period of time for the next few weeks where you're thinking, well, can this really go on that long? And there was the question, immediately, like, well, what are we going to do about Europe? And then Europe went away pretty fast because of the U.S.'s slow reaction to everything and poor response. So, and we had some Canada in there too, and we knew that was going away. Canada wasn't going to let us in. So again, it was a very slow realization of how long it was going to be. It took a long time to realize that it was going to be a year. I mean, after a few months, you started thinking, okay, this is real. This is going to go on a while. But we still, in the summer, were thinking there was a possibility that October could happen, and then that went away. I have noticed that a lot of people in the earlier spring, when the lockdown started happening, a lot of people were planning on lots of recording projects were starting to be planned, and I could see people thinking big. And I noticed a lot of it has kind of fallen aside. So I think one result of this shutdown is that people kind of lost their momentum and their mojo a little bit, which may not be a bad thing, because maybe it's, I kind of view this as a big pause, just a big needed pause. But I know there was a couple of people I was talking to that were like, oh, let's do this, let's do, and a lot of that's fallen through. I think it's hard to get your mind around doing too much when you're in this kind of lockdown space, and I kind of get that. On the personal level, it was great being off the road, because I had been doing it for 15 years, and being home is wonderful. I have a beautiful recording studio connected to my house, so I'm able to do anything I need to do recording-wise here. So on a personal level, it wasn't bad. Being home and being in my studio was a great thing. But that's why it gets around to, like, with our crew. I mean, our crew, who, they're like family to us. And these guys aren't going to work for a year. For them, that there's a big difference. I can at least do some recording. They, their whole industry just up and left, just walked away. So that became a real big concern. Our production guy, Steven, is probably the first guy to mention something like, wow, you should think about this, as it started to look like, whoa, this is going to be long term. I think he mentioned something about, wow, what about the crew? So it got the band thinking, well, what can we do? And that's where we came up with the online auction. And we just kind of pooled our resources and thought, what can we do? And having an online auction for items that we can sell through that. We have old vintage T-shirts lying around. We have, there's a lot of stuff. So we've raised quite a bit of money, and hopefully we'll be able to, raise considerably more, because, we got 10 people basically that we're dealing with that we're trying to really take care of. I've always been a fairly introspective person, but of course this kind of takes it to the next level. And I think, you can't help but have, kind of self-examination and just, like I say, introspection on a deeper level. And I think also a real recognition of what is important and what isn't, in the big picture. I think sure makes you realize how much day-to-day activity can cloud us with a lot of things and burden us with a lot of things that aren't necessarily the most important thing in the world. And I think this kind of forced us all to address that to some extent. I think some people, I've always kind of fought with a little bit of depression, so this has been a time to really use the tools that I have to fight that. And I don't lose sight of the fact that I am lucky in all this. I've been very, very lucky. I don't think any of us could have seen coming because we've never experienced it before. But I noticed a lot of people getting, like, I say this getting knocked down, but I don't necessarily mean it in all that bad a way. Just kind of knocked down from being real motivated to just kind of backing off. And maybe that's not a bad thing. I hope we all get our engines running back up again. But I hope when we do, we have this clearer perspective and maybe do things a little more efficiently and a little more carefully. It'll be interesting to see how people are different when we come out of this. And I hope we're all very appreciative of our world when we get back to it.
Developing right now, the World Health Organization is concerned about a flu-like virus spreading throughout China.
We started hearing about cases in China, and then in early January, started hearing more about it. And then by mid-January, the first case in the U.S. And that's when, for me, it started to sink in, like, we have a problem here. We have a real problem because, we're seeing this spread rapidly. And then when we got into February, we went to Mexico and performed. And when we got back, we were in lockdown mode. And that's when it really settled in and made me realize, okay, this could be life-altering and life-changing. And I knew in the back corners of my mind it was going to, of course, affect the music industry, and not just the world, but since I'm a musician, my first thought was, okay, we're not going to be touring, this year, most likely. And that's my livelihood. Our livelihood, has been altered, and we've had to figure out ways around it. And I started to feel like, okay, we're not touring. We were supposed to be at Sweden Rock Fest, and we were supposed to be at M3, and we were supposed to be here and there, and all of a sudden we weren't. And then I could feel the effects of COVID. Our lives are at stake here, because your livelihood is your life. If you can't work, if you can't eat, you're not going to survive. You have to be able to work. You have to be able to eat and pay your bills and continue on. Some people are falling into depression and alcoholism and drug addiction and whatnot from this whole pandemic, because they're so upset, and rightfully so. But, there has to be a way around it. And I think so much of it starts here, how you think. You can either be really negative or you can be really positive, right? And no matter what the circumstances are, there's always a way to rise above those circumstances, always.
First of all, I want to let you know
I'm thinking of all of you guys. I think of you often. I think of you daily. And I hope, my thoughts always are, I hope everybody out there that follows what I do, follows what the band does, I hope that you all are truly safe and healthy. I tell you, it's tough for me too. It's not like I wake up every day and it's easy and no problem. I mean, I have struggles like everybody else. You know, I go through days where I'm feeling down and out and like, oh man, you know, I just don't feel like doing anything today. You know, I'm a little depressed, or, you know, I'm worried about tomorrow. You know, I mean, I go through that too, but I'm always going to try my best to drive around it. I booked all of 2021 already. I mean, I've got like 5 projects on the calendar for 2021 that take me all the way to the end of the year. And then we're going to start on another Striper album at the end of 2021 into 2022. So it's just the way Lisa and I, my wife, the way we think long term. We don't just think about today. We think about tomorrow and the next day. And then, and a lot of people say to me, gosh, how do you do that? How do you book next year? It's like, it's just how I'm built. I think subconsciously I've been taking on more work because I might be a little fearful that there won't be any work. Which it isn't going to happen. That's just my own, you know, personal battle in the back corners of my mind. But I mean, if you look at my calendar for 2021, it is filled up, literally filled from January to December. And I look at it and I get overwhelmed and I think, oh man, it's a lot of work. Oh my gosh. But I'm grateful for the work. Don't waste a day. I mean, and we've all done that. We've all wasted time and days. It's one thing to take a vacation and you got to do that and clear your head, but it's a whole other thing to just sit around and waste your life away because of fear or because you think you can't do it or what have you. You can do it. There's nothing to be fearful of. Be smart, be wise, but get out there and live life. I'm just always about encouraging people, you know, to find the light in the dark, and there's always light, and it always overtakes the darkness. And you know, don't let life break you down to the point where you feel defeated. Just keep moving, you know. So I use this model often lately, and it's been said many times, but it's so true. Is the best is yet to come if you believe that. You know, cling to that, hold on to that. And there's so many great things that are coming our way. We don't even know about. We haven't seen it yet, but it's coming.
Anybody here ever seen Striper before? Who's never seen Striper before? This is the first time, right? Well, I'm glad you guys are here, man. Thanks for hanging for our set.
I think what's going to happen is when we go out to play for real live, that's going to be a shock to the system. You know, it's going to feel good, but I think it might take some getting used to after a few songs. Like, oh my gosh, this is different. You know, the people are here and they're making noise because we're getting so used to this new way of doing things.